Hello, Daz patrons. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you to my tutorial series. My goal is to always make Daz a little bit easier, fun, and my YouTube channel is here for people to share their ideas and perhaps get a little bit better at Daz Studio. Now, for today's video, I've had a lot of requests from subscribers to demonstrate how I would set up a graphic novel. So I thought what I would do is go through the steps on how we can create a simple graphic novel and how to get it into production as easily as possible. Now, I have to admit, one of my goals is to just keep things as simple as possible when I'm making a comic. And so I often do not create my comics in a graphic novel style. I do like the style of graphic novels, but a lot of times I'm just posting single pictures with captions below, as you can kind of see here. Now, I really do this because it saves a lot of time, and a lot of my comics are just hundreds of pages, and it would take a lot of time to turn it into a graphic novel. But I really do like how graphic novels look, and so I thought I would show you how I would do this. Now, I've got a scene here that is from a comic that I have been developing already, and I'm going to take this comic and we're going to have an introduction. So I've got Milica here, and this is kind of a sci-fi anime type of comic that I've been creating with actually Milica herself. I've mentioned in other videos that I don't use Milica exclusively in all my comics, but in this comic, I think I had a client ask me to use Milica for this type of a comic, so I have her in the comic. And what I want to do is I want to set up an introduction where she is going to be making an entrance into this room. And I just have a basic setup here with a character. This is a Genesis 8 male figure along with our Genesis 8 Milica. And then this is just a sci-fi type of room. And if I go to a different camera, you can kind of see it as I zoom out that I just kind of have this prop that has a couple windows and then it's got some rooms in it. So pretty simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Milica entering this door in the back of the room right here. So if I go back to my camera, we can kind of zoom and find this door. See, it's right there. So I'm going to have her entering this room, and we're going to have a little bit of dialogue and things like that. Now, I have this room set up with two spotlight cameras, and they're both kind of focused on the main characters that are in the middle of the room. So you can see I've got these two spotlight cameras. I have the render settings set up just in a typical format, kind of the default where I'm in dome and scene, infinite sphere. I don't have the denoiser or anything like that on. This is a pretty simple scene, but we're gonna set it up and render some pictures, and then I'll show you how I throw that into a graphic novel. So the first thing I'm gonna do is position my characters. Milica is gonna be coming through this door, so I'm gonna click on her and we're gonna move her to the door. Now, what's really cool is thinking about a graphic novel, we often have multiple pictures on a page, correct? So you might have a distance shot followed by like a portrait, maybe a close-up. And so we're going to try and get several pictures together in one scene. So I'm always trying to get multiple views, multiple pictures for my comic in every scene, and that just saves a lot of time. So I'm just gonna position Milica at this door, and what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to move things like our spotlights and place them. So I'm gonna open this door. we're going to take Milika and we're going to position her kind of coming in. And I like this pose. She is supposed to be a little bit confused and bewildered, so I like her facial expression right at the moment. We're going to adjust her eyes to make it look like she's looking into the room. And we might even do a pose, let's say, where her hand is on the door. Now, kind of the premise of this comic is that Milika is going to a party and she gets kind of lost, and she actually kind of stumbles into this room to ask for directions. And that's where the comic kind of starts. So I don't have an introduction to it right at the moment, and that's what I'm going to create. Okay, so I have Milika positioned. I'm going to have to take my spotlights and we're going to adjust those. So this first scene is just going to be her at the door, kind of asking if this is the right place, if this is where she should be. So we're going to have maybe 3 pictures that we'll take from this scene to add into the graphic novel page that we're going to create. So let's see. I'm just positioning my spotlights, and now I want a camera that's in the correct spot. So I want a camera where we can see that she is coming into the room, so we're going to have a little distance. Now, the one thing that we have to do is she's coming into this room, but there's nothing behind her. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to add some props behind her to make it look like there's a room behind her that she's entering. Now, the easiest way that I've found to do this is to actually take and just copy some of the scene that we already have. And so that would be making a copy or a partial copy of this room. So if I just choose, for example, this back wall, I can take this wall and I can duplicate it. We'll just go edit, duplicate node hierarchies. And once I have that second wall, I can just move it and we will put it behind Milika. We're not going for an entire room behind her. We just want to have the illusion that there's a room behind her. All right, so you can see now it looks like there's stuff behind her. If I want to make it look different, a lot of times we can just rotate things or delete things, hide things. All right, so you can see that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Something that simple, and now we have this camera ready to go. So now I've got 3 cameras. Now I don't want my male character in this scene, so what we're going to do is we're just going to drop him a little bit below. Okay, so now I've got 4 pictures that I really like in this one scene. So I'm going to drop back down to a single view. We've kind of looked at all of the options here, and I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to just do a render, and we're going to go into render queue. And right now I have render queue 3. I am so sorry they don't offer it in Daz Studio anymore because of the Premiere membership. They got rid of it when they created that Premiere membership because the membership has render queue, but I guess they don't want you using it if you aren't a Premiere member. But if you did buy it prior to the Premiere membership coming out, you'll still have render queue. So I've got render queue 3. What I'm going to do is just add this current scene. We're going to go to render all visible cameras, and we're just going to render these pictures up. So it's going to render all 3 pictures, and let's render them, and then I'll show you what I'll do with these. Okay, so now I'm just going to reposition everything. So we're going to go into the next set of pictures, and I'm going to just create a second scene. So I'm going to take Milika. She's now going to go into the room. So I'm just going to bring her into the room, and we're going to repose her kind of by this computer. Maybe she's going to look at this computer. Usually when I'm making a comic, I kind of have a general overview of what I want, but then I get ideas as I go, and then I kind of change things as I'm creating. I think the key, though, is to try and just keep things simple. So as I go, I'm just kind of making sure I've got everything that I want in the scene posed. And I'm just going to pose things how I like it for this picture. Once I have this picture done, then we're going to go to the next camera. All right. So now for this second scene, if I go to my view tab, we can see that we have a variety of different pictures as well. So this is kind of nice. I'm going to go back to single view. We're going to save this, and we want to save it differently. If you save it with the same name, it's just going to overwrite your previous renders that we just created. So I'm going to go save as. We're going to save this scene as something different. Okay, so now let's get this ready. We're going to render up these images. Go to render queue, add current scene, all visible cameras. Let's render this bad boy. Once we're done rendering, I'll come back and I'll show you how I would set up this graphic novel. Okay, so I have two scenes rendered. One has, I think, 4 pictures. The other one has 5. And I'm going to just show you now how I would set up a graphic novel. Now, I try and keep this really easy. I don't use any fancy programs or anything, and I still get what I think are good results. So here are our pictures that I rendered. So we have 9 pictures. And if we need to do any post work, we might want to do it before we actually put these pictures into the graphic novel. But just to kind of show you how I would do this, I am going to not worry about any post work, and we're just going to set this up. All right, so I have 9 pictures that I rendered with these 2 scenes. And now the trick is to combine them into a way where you can tell a story in a graphic novel by adding these pictures together. So just kind of looking through my first set of pictures, I think what I want to do is start with this picture, maybe as an introduction, and then we'll have Milika opening this door, asking what's going on, and peering in to the door as she does this. So there's a variety of ways that we can do this. Simply, my method is just using Microsoft Paint. I don't get very fancy at all. It's simple, it works great, and it gets the results I like. So I'm just going to go and open this picture in Microsoft Paint. I do shrink it down a couple just so I can see everything better. And so this is going to be our introduction. We're kind of looking into this room, and we're going to have Milika opening the door. So I'm going to go to the picture where she's opening the door. Let's open that in Paint as well. And I'm just going to take this one part. I'm going to copy Milika. Now, I do want to adjust this a little bit because I want Milika over here. And so I'm going to scooch this over, and I think that'll make more space so we can still see what's going on in this room, and we'll be able to add Milika to it. So something like that. Then I'm just going to take Milika. We're going to copy her and the door. Control copy. Go back to the room picture and add her in. Now, Paint isn't fancy, right? So you've got to adjust this so that it looks good. And you might need to put like a border around the edges or something like that. But I'm going to add her in. Now, to kind of break this up, we're going to put a bar in this picture to split up the two. Because we want everyone to realize that it's 2 different pictures. So we can add this bar like that. A lot of times I'll add a black bar, but this picture is so dark, I'm going to use white, I think. So this is my first picture, and see, we might want to just take and add a black border kind of around because my cut and paste skills aren't perfect, but no one will ever notice. Now for the words, I just use Word again, and if I'm putting text into the picture, I often just like this font right here called Kristen ITC, and I select that. I usually make it about size 22, and then we can just type right in here. Now I'm going to make this white. Now once I get it in the right spot, I just copy it again like that, and then I'm going to draw solid fill box around the words. So I'm just going to put it like that. Copy, and then see, once I copied it, I know the size, so now I can just paste the words back in. Now we can also use the little squiggly here if you want to have little caption boxes, I guess. This is just completely up to you. This is the kind of stuff that if you really get into it, it looks really good, but it just takes so much time to do. And this is what I often will avoid. Now there are other programs, like you could maybe do this in Photoshop, get this kind of look to it, but I don't have Photoshop. GIMP doesn't work very good for me with text, so I'm just using Microsoft Word. So once I have that first picture, I'm going to save it as a JPEG, and I'm just going to put it into my folder as picture number 1. Okay, then I can X out, and I can go into my next set of pictures and open these up. So I'm going to take the picture of Milika's back. Let's open that up. And then let's open up close-up portrait picture of her. And I'm just going to use this as my backdrop. We're going to add that picture of Milika right here, and we're just going to make a caption like she's confused. So I'm just going to go here. We're going to open this up, maybe have a nice portrait view of her. Control copy. Come back here, paste it in. It's too big, so I'm just going to go to reduction. I'm going to reduce it. Let's see what 80% does. That's pretty good. Maybe even a little bit more. Let's reduce it another 10%. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I can make my border, and remember I made it white, so we're going to be making a white border for this. I want it as thick as possible. So now, see, I'm starting to create this graphic novel. I like to put the text in first so I can position it the way I want, and then go back and add our box. In some cases, I don't even add a box. Like if it's dark enough, I won't even add this box. If you can't read things very well, that's where I'll put that box in all the time. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of getting the picture of how I would do this. Okay, something like that. And then I could add even more text here. Maybe she's going to say something longer. See, I have space here for her to actually say something longer. So let's think of a dialogue. She's lost. Okay, something like this. I'm just making some text up. She's trying to find a party maybe or something, like a cosplay party. So I'm just going to copy that. We're going to go back into our box. So this is where that box comes in handy. Now I can adjust the words. Like I said, I don't usually do this. I've had some clients that really want it, so I do it. I usually just do one picture per page on my comics, and that seems to work pretty darn good. One of the things that I like about showing the entire picture is that when I put the text below, it's not actually blocking any of the picture. And I know that's not really what comic books do. What we're doing right now is really what comic books are doing. But I like showing the entire image and not kind of inhibiting our view of the image that I spent so much time creating, covering it with the text. All right, so you can see now I am starting to get the beginning of a comic. Now, this is more of a graphic comic, right? So if I open this up, you can see we've got our first picture and then our second picture. And you just keep doing that. Just keep building the scene. I actually change my scene and save it in Daz Studio for every set of images. And so if you look at my Daz menu, for example, you can see that I have a series of scenes that I have saved. Remember, I save each one because RenderQ will overwrite pictures as you render if you don't change their name. So I have just a series of scenes, and I can always go back and change them if there's something wrong. So I'm saving each scene, and then I'm also rendering every picture. So I hope this helped you out. I feel like I didn't really explain things very well in this tutorial, and I do it very basically. You may have a better way with Photoshop or even GIMP or some other program besides Microsoft Paint. I just find Microsoft Paint very convenient for text, and so I use it. But I hope this did help you out in some way. This is how I create my graphic novels. So don't forget to like, subscribe, give me a few comments, give me suggestions on how you would do it differently, maybe better, or let me know what you've learned about my technique and help me improve on how I do it. All right, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy rendering.